Before the world ever fell in love with Princess Diana, there was another Spencer sister quietly standing at the crossroads of fate. Lady Sarah McCorquodale wasn't just a witness to Diana's rise, she was part of the chain reaction that set it all in motion. For decades, she stayed silent while rumors swirled about what she knew, what she carried, and what she regretted. Now, at 60, with her voice breaking and tears finally spilling, Sarah confirms a truth she's held inside for years, one that reshapes how we understand Diana's destiny. She was not born simply as Sarah. Her full name was Elizabeth Sarah Lavinia Spencer, born on March 19, 1955. Long before the world knew Princess Diana, Sarah was her closest ally, the sister Diana trusted most. In many ways, she was the best thing that ever happened to Diana. And yet, in a cruel twist of fate, she was also the woman whose choices helped set Diana on the path that would ultimately destroy her life. At 60, Sarah finally confirmed the rumors that had followed her younger sister for decades, forcing the world to ask uncomfortable questions about loyalty, destiny, and regret. Sarah's life looked privileged from the outside. After her father became the 8th Earl Spencer in 1975, she received the title Lady, a symbol many assumed came with ease and protection. But the reality was far darker. Behind the aristocratic image was a woman fighting brutal inner battles, including a devastating struggle with eating disorders in her early adulthood. The impact on her health, confidence, and social life was severe, something rarely acknowledged in public discussions of the Spencer family. After finishing her education at Riddlesworth Hall and West Heath, Sarah moved to London to build a life of her own. By aristocratic standards, her path was surprisingly ordinary. What made her highly visible wasn't ambition or scandal, it was her connection to Diana. That closeness made her a target. When enemies wanted to hurt Diana, they often went after Sarah instead, hoping to exploit the sisters' bond. But Sarah never broke. Even when it meant standing against royal expectations, she remained Diana's most reliable pillar of support. When Diana's marriage collapsed and the pressure from the royal family intensified, Sarah stood firm beside her. She encouraged Diana to speak, to resist, and to survive. In many ways, she became the quiet force that helped Diana endure her most painful battles with Prince Charles. Her loyalty did not end with Diana's death. Sarah spent the years that followed preserving her sister's legacy and protecting the values Diana had fought for. Yet Sarah's story carries a haunting irony. Before Diana ever entered the royal orbit, it was Sarah who was romantically involved with Prince Charles. Their relationship ended abruptly and publicly when Sarah rejected him outright, once declaring she wouldn't marry him, whether he was a dustman or the King of England. Despite the breakup, she remained within Charles's social circle, and in a moment that would alter history, she unknowingly became the bridge that introduced her younger sister to him. To understand the weight of that moment, you have to understand Diana herself. Princess Diana was born on July 1st, 1961, the fourth of 5 Spencer children. She grew up at Park House near Sandringham, close to the royal family from an early age. Despite the privilege, her childhood was deeply troubled, marked by her parents' bitter marriage and the intense pressure placed on her mother to produce a male heir. From the very beginning, Diana's childhood was shaped by pressures she had no power to change. Her mother was relentlessly criticized for failing to produce a male heir, a demand she could neither meet nor escape. The marriage collapsed under the strain, and when Diana was just 7 years old, her parents divorced. She stayed with her father, who later became Earl Spencer, but peace never followed. Her relationship with her stepmother, Reign Spencer, was notoriously tense. Inside that grand house, life often felt less like privilege and more like endurance. Everyone compromised, because there was no other choice. The real turning point in Diana's life came years later, and it came through her own sister. In 1977, Lady Sarah McCorquodale introduced Diana to Prince Charles. Diana was just 16. Charles was 12 years older. He was immediately taken by her youth and gentleness, especially after a painful breakup with Sarah. What began as polite interest soon shifted into courtship, and from there, the trajectory of Diana's life changed forever. By 1981, the world was watching as Diana married Charles and stepped into an unimaginable level of fame. Overnight, a shy, aristocratic young woman became the most photographed figure on the planet. To the public, it looked like a fairy tale. But beneath the surface, it marked the beginning of something far more complicated and far more tragic. There was a cruel irony in how it all began. After ending things with Sarah, Charles found Diana's innocence refreshing. He believed she was harmless, unthreatening, someone who would never challenge him. Diana, on the other hand, was only 19 and utterly convinced she had found her knight in shining armor. She believed Charles would protect her, cherish her, and save her. With hindsight, that innocence feels heartbreaking. Their first real meeting was brief and awkward. Diana later joked that Charles seemed gloomy, almost distant. What she didn't say was what happened beneath the surface. Charles was still reeling from his breakup with Sarah and the recent assassination of his mentor, Lord Mountbatten. Diana responded with sympathy and warmth, and that tenderness drew him in. During a quiet barbecue, their connection shifted. In an unexpected moment, Charles kissed her. That single gesture quietly launched one of the most infamous relationships in modern history. Despite spending surprisingly little time together, the relationship moved at alarming speed. After just 13 meetings, Charles proposed. Diana was given time to think while preparing for a trip to Australia. But in her mind, the answer was already clear. She said yes, thrilled, hopeful, and unaware of what lay ahead. Their engagement was announced in 1981, and the public fell instantly in love with Diana. She was young, beautiful, and seemingly pure. Everything people wanted in a future queen. Yet even then, cracks appeared. During an interview, Diana openly declared they were in love. Charles's response, whatever in love means, landed like a quiet warning. Diana was confused, unsettled, and unknowingly glimpsing her future. The wedding itself took place on July 29, 1981, at St. Paul's Cathedral, watched by an estimated 750 million people worldwide. Diana's dress, designed by David Emanuel and Elizabeth Emanuel, became instantly iconic with its dramatic 25-foot train and intricate lace. To the world, it was the ultimate love story, a prince and his princess at the center of a global dream. But while crowds cheered, quieter rumors began to circulate. Behind palace walls, questions were whispered about how Lady Sarah truly felt watching her younger sister marry her former boyfriend. Sarah publicly supported Diana and even joked that she had played matchmaker. Still, there were murmurs, never confirmed, of buried jealousy and unresolved emotion. To protect her sister, Sarah made a quiet, heartbreaking choice. She could have chased the same spotlight, built the same public profile, but she didn't. Instead, she retreated into a private life so Diana could breathe, move, and work without another Spencer constantly under scrutiny. And once Princess Diana found her footing, she showed the world what real influence could look like. An aristocrat by birth became a global force by using the royal name not for privilege, but for purpose. Diana's compassion reshaped how the monarchy was seen. She poured her energy into causes others avoided: HIV/AIDS, leprosy, and the campaign against anti-personnel landmines. Each step made her more beloved by the public and more unsettling to powerful figures who preferred tradition over disruption. In the 1980s, when AIDS was wrapped in fear and stigma, Diana did something radical. In 1987, she publicly touched patients. One simple gesture, human contact, made headlines around the world, and cracked open a wall of ignorance. She later became a patron of the National AIDS Trust and regularly visited the London Lighthouse, offering presents where society had offered rejection. Her work reached far beyond Britain. In 1997, Diana met Nelson Mandela to discuss support for children and families affected by HIV/AIDS. She also served as a patron of the British Red Cross and became a leading voice against landmines through her work with the Halo Trust. That same year, she walked through a minefield in Angola wearing protective gear, an image that shocked the world and helped accelerate momentum toward the Ottawa Treaty, banning anti-personnel mines. Diana was just as determined to dismantle the stigma surrounding leprosy. As a patron of the leprosy mission from 1989, she visited hospitals across the globe, again using touch as a tool of dignity and change. Where others recoiled, she reached out, and the world followed. Every time she faltered or doubted herself, it was Lady Sarah McCorquodale who urged her forward, reminding her that she had the power to change lives on a massive scale. That resolve carried Diana into children's health and cancer research. She supported charities worldwide, including Children with Cancer UK, and her role as president of the Royal Marsden NHS Foundation Trust underscored her devotion to young patients. It wasn't performative compassion, it was sustained, hands-on commitment. For someone so devoted to life and humanitarian work, it seemed only fair that life would be kind in return. But that balance never came. As Diana's public love grew, her private world began to fracture. Rumors of an affair between Prince Charles and Camilla Parker Bowles spread quietly at first, whispers among friends, an open secret no one wanted to name. No matter how carefully it was contained, the truth found its way out. When Diana finally broke, she didn't turn to the palace or the press, she turned to her sister. Collapsing under the weight of betrayal, Princess Diana cried on Lady Sarah McCorquodale's shoulder. Sarah didn't let her stay there. She steadied her, rebuilt her confidence, and quietly prepared her for the hardest fight of her life, reclaiming her dignity in full public view. That fight exploded into the open in 1993 when a private phone call recorded in 1989 was leaked to the press. The call, between Prince Charles and Camilla Parker Bowles, exposed the intimacy of their relationship and ignited what became known as Camillagate, or Tampongate. The scandal stunned the public, not only because of the affair itself, but because of the crude, deeply personal remarks that shattered the carefully cultivated image of royal restraint. Charles's reputation took a severe blow, and the monarchy's mystique cracked. The damage only deepened. In 1994, under mounting pressure, Charles appeared in a televised interview with Jonathan Dimbleby and admitted to being unfaithful after the marriage had irretrievably broken down. He avoided naming Camilla, but the implication was unmistakable. Any remaining illusion of unity collapsed. The following year, Diana responded with calm precision during her own BBC interview, delivering the line that would echo around the world. There were 3 of us in this marriage, so it was a bit crowded. It wasn't defiance for spectacle, it was clarity. She made it plain that her worth did not come from marriage, but from the bond she held with the public. As the scandal raged, public sympathy consolidated almost entirely behind Diana. She remained admired for her grace, her compassion, and her tireless humanitarian work. The pressure became untenable, and in 1992, the Queen intervened, initiating a formal separation. The divorce was finalized in 1996. Diana lost the style of Her Royal Highness, but in return, she gained something she had been denied for years: peace. Freed from the daily constraints of palace life, Diana focused on raising her 2 sons, Prince William and Prince Harry, committing to co-parenting with Charles while carving out an independent identity. For the first time, she began to imagine a life defined on her own terms. Then, just as she allowed herself that freedom, fate intervened. Seeking rest and a taste of normalcy, Diana accepted an invitation aboard a summer cruise. There, she met Dodi Fayed, the son of her host. The connection was immediate and unmistakable. What began as companionship quickly deepened into romance, two people drawn together in a moment of fragile happiness. But before either of them could speak publicly about their future, tragedy struck. In the early hours of August 31st, 1997, everything ended inside the Pont de l'Alma tunnel in Paris. The car carrying Diana was being driven by Henri Paul, who was speeding through the tunnel, while paparazzi followed closely behind. The vehicle lost control and slammed into a concrete pillar. Paul and Dodi Fayed were killed instantly. Diana survived the initial impact, but she was critically injured. She suffered for hours. Despite emergency treatment, Diana died at 6 a.m. the following morning from internal injuries. The news rippled across the globe with stunning force. Shock turned into collective grief. Prince Charles, along with Diana's sisters, Lady Sarah McCorquodale and Jane Fellows, flew to Paris to bring her body home. At the funeral, Sarah delivered a farewell that broke the nation's composure. Her words were raw, protective, and filled with love. Spoken not as an aristocrat, but as a sister who had lost the person she tried to shield for most of her life. For many, it felt like the final chapter. Diana's story, it seemed, had ended. But for others, the questions only began there. Anger simmered over what was never fully explained. One of Dodi's bodyguards survived the crash and later claimed complete amnesia. The role of paparazzi, the speed of the car, and reports that the driver had been drinking all fed suspicion. Official conclusions failed to quiet public doubt. Instead, they left behind a vacuum, one filled with theories, whispers, and unresolved unease. So what really happened that night in Paris? And why, decades later, does it still refuse to rest? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if stories like this matter to you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay with us for more untold chapters behind the world's most unforgettable lives.